Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
I love it. That's how they make it, like, when they eat bones. As a special
Hyenas?
effect. As a special effect.
Oh, I don't know what I was just pulling little sister roll and irritating the crap out of each other.
I know, we're like, that sounds like a Foley artist.
It's okay. I had hit the record already.
Oh, you
I
had,
know
and
you
that's why
did.
I exaggerated myself.
It's usually me doing that.
Hi, everybody. Once again, we are the Todd-CAST. I'm Chuck.
I'm Kris.
Alyce.
And tonight, we're
We're going to talk about Foley artists.
Well, okay. I was talking to Lynn about what we could probably do for the next podcast because I had no idea what we were going to do. You were the one that reminded me that we were going to talk about how we prepare for travel.
Mm-hmm.
And Lynn also said, well, you could do the Seinfeld thing.
What, nothing?
Yeah, well, entire podcast about nothing.
Well, I mean, we're pretty good at that. I'm sure we could do that. Just think of random stuff and
Apparently, I think it would be more interesting
probably
than the stuff we've been doing
well,
for some reason.
we're not going to
I
read
don't
the
know.
history books to you tonight. So
I could.
I know you could. You always could.
Yep. I
Particularly
could.
as we land on specific locale, but we won't do that.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that time. There's always that opportunity for Chuck
to take us back into the Wayback Machine.
Yes, yes.
Allison's like, I'm here.
Okay, Professor Beebot.
I already did my job.
Yeah. Tonight we're going to be talking about how we prepare for travel. And in preparing for travel, well, I think you guys know by now that travel for us didn't used to be the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about just in the fact of, well, way back we used to do this, we used to do that and everything. And, now we're older and all that. No, I'm missing parts. So it makes it a little harder to do things. And it makes it very different to do things. So that's what that's going to be a little bit of what I'm going to talk about tonight.
Well, and I think we're very colored too with our perspective of how we travel anyway, because we easily could pick up and get on a plane.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
and a lot of people didn't have that privilege.
literally at the drop of a hat. Yeah.
And then you want to go? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Off we went. And that's a different now for us.
Yeah. Give me a half hour to pack a overnight bag and
Off.
Yeah.
Go for the day. We would do day trips too. So, we have a different perspective now that, yeah, we are grown-ups now and we don't have that
You don't have the
privilege
right
anymore.
I was gonna say, the standby privilege of a airline employee is kind of gone the way of the dodo.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm sorry, I don't have the patience for standby anymore.
But that's different for us. So we have that to color how we travel as well. We're also very comfortable in airports.
Mhm.
So
Yes, very.
that colors how we travel and makes big differences. So
Exactly. So, it's just, how can I say it? I'm not even sure where I was going with all
I
that.
don't either. But
Yeah.
we're going to go on a trip. So let's start from the start of it all of we're antsy and we don't want to stay in Colorado anymore.
It's travel season.
It's
Yeah.
all
Which-
season is travel.
I was going to say, which is 365 days a year.
Yeah.
So there's that. But for us, it is travel season. It is time now to go and try to get on an airplane. And we want to go somewhere. Where are we going?
Good question.
Where are we going?
Well,
Is it domestic? Is it international? Where are we going?
some of that depends on timing. When are we going? So determining the destination sometimes is dependent on when we want to go. Do we want to go next month? Then it's probably a domestic trip. Do we want to go in 4 months? Then we can probably plan an international trip for pleasure.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's also the fact that are we going to avoid snow, or are we going to go where we have the same climate that we have here?
Yes. Right.
So which one?
Well, what are you in the mood for?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you in the mood for a lot of people or little people? Are you in the mood for being super, super busy, or do you just want to chill out and do as little as possible? Those are all questions that you have to ask about the type of trip you want to plan. So that all helps with determining the destination.
Right.
Most of the time we're headed for warm because we do live in a space that has colder weather. And if we're traveling during a colder season, we want to go to a warmer season.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to determine too where we go and what kind of space, how much money do we have to spend?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a big factor in that too, and how we decide. And
and is this right, and domestic versus international, right? Do we want to do a bucket list item where we're going to go visit a country where we've never been, or we've been and we want to go back and hit some of the places we didn't have time to do the first time? So which is it? And then what's the weather going to be in that destination? So one of the things I'll talk about a lot too is I travel more for work than I do for pleasure. And so I often don't get to pick those things, right? So I get to go to Minnesota in February, and I get to go. Fortunately, it was a winter where it wasn't very cold. They were all worried.
Winter.
Yeah.
It was a mild winter.
You lucked out.
I lucked out.
Yeah.
Other than I was traveling with a broken arm. But other than that, and when I went to Jacksonville, it wasn't that warm. It was warm enough. So, and then the international trip, same thing. Like, we're going when we have to go, not ideal travel tourist season, right?
Exactly.
So, but I will say it's always, when you're traveling for work, unless it's a place you go to constantly or a place where you don't necessarily want to get touristy, like, I don't know.
Right.
I always try and make time to do at least one touristy thing. And if it's an international trip, by all means, I try and work in an extra day or two to be a tourist so I can take advantage of that while
I don't know how there are people who can travel internationally for work and not be a tourist at all. I can't fathom that.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around that.
Sometimes the work schedule determines that, and you're traveling with other people, you're traveling, but you've got to get back for another thing, and you don't have that opportunity. But if you have the opportunity, by all means, take advantage. Most companies don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you take a vacation day on top of your business travel, and as long as the flight doesn't cost any more, then your flight's covered. At least you'll have to pay for your hotel generally for the days that you're not at work, but that's okay once you're there.
Indeed. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it's
so the places I've been lucky enough to travel for work, that I was able to do a few touristy things. I can't venture too far, but it was a nice, I'd have an extra day or so. I've been to Turkey and Greece and the UK, Ireland, Brussels, Netherlands. So, not Asia yet, but unless you count the fact that I crossed the river in Istanbul and went to the Asia side. So technically I've been on the continent, but I wouldn't exactly call that Asia. So That's probably as far afield as I've been, as far as, out of familiar Western Europe. But Istanbul is truly East meets West.
Right.
It's one of my favorite places. I've been there twice. I love it. But anyway.
But you kind of getting ahead of us here.
I know. I always do, don't I?
Yeah.
But anyway, so determining where you're going and, is it work? Is it for fun? And if it's for fun, what do we want to do?
Let's keep it with the channel on what we do here, or on what we do.
So we're doing for fun.
Yeah, we're going for this video podcast is we are doing entertainment travel.
Okay.
Okay.
So then we want to know, are we going to do museum-y things? Are we going to lay on a beach? Do we want to go hiking up in the woods somewhere? Do we want to go on an old 3-masted square rigger for a boat trip? What do we want to do? Do we want to go scuba diving for those that can? Or snorkeling for those of us who can't scuba?
Okay, I'll make the determination. We're just going to keep it easy. We're going to go to Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good. Mix of everything then.
Yeah, domestic travel, Los Angeles, quick, easy trip for us because it's only about 2.5 hours away by plane.
If that.
Yeah.
And
I think it's actually just about 2 hours.
Yeah, I would say hour and a half, hour 45, depending on the jet stream.
Well, I was gonna say it's shorter coming home than it is going out. It's shorter
coming home, but like if weather's moving in, it takes us a little bit longer. If there's no weather moving in, it's about an hour and a half, hour and 45.
The official word is it's an hour and 52 minutes.
Okay.
That's the official.
We've made it an hour and 30.
Yeah, we have. We've also had pilots who
go high.
They gain some altitude, then they hit the throttle.
Yeah.
Okay, so domestic travel. What do we do?
I want to see a beach.
Okay.
And I also want to hit one of the, I guess you call it museums, one of the studio museums.
What about like movie memorabilia museums?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one with the big shark in it.
Oh, the one downtown.
You want to go to you want to go to the Academy Award Museum.
Is that
the
what
one
that
downtown?
Is?
That's what that is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to stay for this trip. We won't go to Disney because we do a lot of
we've been there
podcasts with Disney. So this trip we are going to do not Disney, LA stuff.
Okay.
So that means we need to find where in the city, because LA's huge, makes the most sense to stay. And some of that's driven by budget, but also convenience. It also means we're going to need a car, because LA is certainly not a public transportation space.
No, it's
so, I mean, maybe you can Uber once you get into the city, but
from the airport to downtown, you need a car.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to go out to the beach or whatever, you probably want a car. So I'm going to say we need a car.
Okay.
Yeah.
She agrees.
Okay. Meredith says yes. Okay. So what else there, sweetie?
And I would say, if we're going to Boston or New York, probably don't need a car.
No, you can train.
Trains and
there's
Ubers and taxis.
There are towns with better public transportation than where we're going right now.
Yeah. The Wild West doesn't do public transportation very well.
Not well.
No.
We're spread out.
We're too spread out for sure.
Exactly.
So
Okay, so
those are my things.
You want to go to the Academy Award Museum?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would like to go to the Warner Brothers studio.
Okay.
Okay, because there's some very, very important things that happened at Warner Brothers that I want to go experience.
Okay.
So therefore, Burbank is now on the list.
Okay.
Thus the car.
So, thus the
Thus
car.
the car.
Yeah, we've got Hollywood because you want to go to the Academy Award Museum.
Right.
And now Burbank is on the list. Alyce?
I mean, I always like to be on the beach, so.
Yeah, we definitely need to hit a beach.
Okay. So again, now we've got Long Beach, Santa Monica.
Santa Monica is more of a pier and not a beach, right?
It appears on a beach.
On the beach. There's the boardwalk. But like Santa Monica has the pier, but it's also a stretch of beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like a harbor.
No.
Okay.
It's not one of my favorites, but
it's got the amusement park there.
I know.
And the Lost Boys are flashing through my head.
1941
yeah,
flashing through my head.
Oh my God!
Oh, bug. I will probably be more beach combing, tide pooling,
Mhm.
sitting watching waves.
Well, then in that case, maybe we should have said San Diego.
Mm.
Yeah, but you wanted to do Hollywood, so.
Well, that was just because I said Los Angeles.
Well, but they're what?
So as you
2
can
hours?
tell, us determining a destination becomes very convoluted.
Well, but it also means we have a car.
Yeah.
San Diego's
Yeah.
not that far.
It's 2
from LA.
hours.
It's 2 hours.
2
I know.
hours plus.
in LA.
In
traffic.
traffic.
Yeah.
Right.
So, saying again?
No, we're from Colorado. A 2-hour drive is nothing. So we can do both.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to carve a day, it
Yeah.
could happen. But there's
I
enough.
wouldn't want to carve a day. I would want to maybe land in LA, go down to San Diego, do our San Diego thing, come back into LA and stay in
So a week.
California for a day or two. Yeah, maybe 4 to 5 days.
Mhm.
And stay a couple of days there to do the LA things, the museums,
And then
hit
fly
some
out.
cool restaurants, and then fly out. Yeah.
That could happen.
But I like
Yeah.
doing the distant thing first and then working
Mhm.
my way back to the airport than the other way around. Because heaven forbid, you're in San Diego and you've got to catch a flight in LA and you've got to
Yeah, no, that isn't going to happen.
yeah. And yes, you could absolutely look to see if you can fly into one and out of the other, but generally that's more expensive. You can get better deals if you get a return
Yeah.
from the same airport. Same with if you're renting a car. You can absolutely return it to a different airport, but you generally get some sort of penalty for that.
Yeah.
So,
And where we've, hypothetically chosen, there's a lot to do.
oh yeah,
So
for sure. We have to narrow
Yeah.
down what we
we
want to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's going to be things I haven't done before.
Mhm.
Or you mentioned San Diego.
Yeah.
Have you guys been to Catalina?
I've never been to Catalina.
Never.
I
Okay.
thought you did.
No, never.
Yeah, we've never been to Catalina then.
So
Never.
I've been to Catalina, but my ocean experience, again, it was a work trip. So our beach experience was in the middle of the night because it was the only time
Yeah.
we had time. I would love to go back to Catalina.
I would love to go to Catalina.
and see it during the day
Mhm.
and enjoy it as a tourist. So
I have a friend who was a camp counselor out there, and
Oh,
she has
okay.
great stories. So I would love to do Catalina.
and so there are hotels there. We would consider maybe staying
Yeah.
in Catalina
Yeah,
and do that.
get
So-
a golf cart and drive around.
That's right. Yeah. So that sounds like fun. Let's plan that.
Okay, so now we're going to San Diego?
Well, we're going to go to San Diego for a couple
For a
of
little
days,
bit of
and
it.
then we'll come back.
Stay in
to
Catalina.
Oh,
and then-
we're gonna jump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're
Okay, all right.
expanding our timeline.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
4 to 5 days
Excellent.
now. Yeah.
Okay, now,
So now
see, again, determining destination.
Yeah.
You
This
know?
is how we do it as a family. We're like, what do we want to do? What does everybody want to get out of this trip? Can we do that all in one trip, or do we need to compromise? So in this case, we can do it all in one trip.
Yep. And from what I've discovered from our trip to North Carolina, me and a beach can work.
It can work.
It
Mhm.
can work. I have to be very, very cognizant and aware of what is available for me to do
Mm-hmm.
on the beach. Gone are the days where I can just sort of throw on a pair of swim trunks, kick off my shoes, and just go. Those days are gone now.
Yeah.
I actually have to plan ahead on. I need my waterproof sock over the top of my prosthesis. I need to make sure that I have somewhat stable ground to walk on. Do I have my reef shoes with me?
You always had your reef shoes with you.
Well,
I thought it was interesting because with And this is where it's different now, is you needed a chair to sit in instead of just going down on the ground, because we would always just plop ourselves down and on a towel.
Throw down a towel.
Getting down and then getting back up.
Yeah, so that was very different. I was like, we have to go get you. It was easy. It was no big deal to get a chair, but it was just like,
but that's not always
flexibility.
going to. Yeah, that's not always going to be available.
Right.
So it is something to consider. So that's changing how you pack.
Yes.
And it's changing how we consider what beach we're going to go to. Yeah. Make sure it's accessible and
with amenities. Yeah, I would say with amenities, so that way we can grab a chair if we have to.
With the prosthesis, do pay attention.
And then it depends. I think for San Diego, we probably don't need snorkel gear.
I'm not getting. I'm just going to sit on the beach. I'm not getting in that water.
Yeah,
even in the summer. No, thank you.
Pacific water is cold.
Holy crap, no.
Yeah, I know it's cold. I'll just saying snorkel probably not. Plus, it's pretty churned up because it's
unless we're in the middle of July. I'm not touching it.
Even in the middle of July, it's cold.
I could do a little bit, but not. No thanks.
Do we want to go on any sort of boat tour while we're out there? So. Catamaran, probably not because of you, right? I don't know if you can do a catamaran.
No.
But can we go whale watching or,
Depends on the time of year.
Yeah, right. But
I always like to be on the water. So if there's a way of getting out, yes. So that's my preference. But the beach work, it depends on budget.
It's budget and timing, like you said, time of year. So things to consider, right?
Yeah.
What are we going to do when we get there? Is this this was me for the North Carolina trip. I just need to decompress. I just want to sit on the sand and watch the waves. That's all I really want to do. Mm-hmm. Of course, we did more things, but that was for me, the beach, what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And
on the water.
And for me, it was proving that I could get there to do it
and figure out how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was all experimentation.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So we know what to pack. This probably means we need to pack beach towels though, because unless you're at a pretty fancy resort, you probably don't have a towel that they'll let you take to the beach. Even if they have pool towels, they don't let you take them to the beach. So pack your own beach towel. We have towels from so many different destinations because we never think of it. And then we have to go and go to the tourist trap and buy those beach towels. So,
but then they become a souvenir.
They do. It's true. But maybe avoid that unless you want a souvenir. But even if you want a souvenir, do you actually want to go shopping before you get to the beach? So pack a towel. And then what? I guess determine what hotel we want.
I would say staying and where we fly into, where we drive to, where we're staying. And then we start booking things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then we start getting on, and there are enough travel sites out there to find discounts on things that you can do it yourself. Yeah. It just depends on the kind of trip that you're going on. We have great access with family members who are travel concierges, and they can help find some good deals. If you travel off season, you can get some good deals there. And off season doesn't necessarily mean cold. September is off season, but it's still a brilliant time to travel because the weather is spectacular. So, even October, we were in, North Carolina in
October. The end of October.
So it depends on a lot of that, but you can find deals. You can also find packages. Mm-hmm. You can find ways of saving some money if you need to. Mm-hmm. And that all works together. So you got to do a little bit of investigating there. And then once you find the thing that you want, you just book it because you don't know if it's going to be there later.
True. Yeah. And domestically, at least, you can really, because I think just because we're so familiar with what different hotels represent.
Yeah.
And do you want to do a local? Like when we were in North Carolina,
right,
we picked local hotels that still had an online presence, but were not the chains. So that was kind of fun. I liked doing that, at least for a couple of them.
And reminding ourselves that they're there for us to literally just sleep in. Mm-hmm. That's not you're not trying to recreate your home.
Yeah, you're not going for the resort experience. If you're going for the resort experience,
book a resort.
then do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Do that,
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, do not presume that just every hotel is going to be the resort experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do make the choice of not going commercial, chain hotels, motels, know that it's kind of a crapshoot
Mm-hmm.
of what you're going to get, because mom and pop sometimes do a brilliant job. Sometimes it's a little, well, like a bed and breakfast kind of experience.
Well, there's that, and it's also because mom and pop are probably the only ones running the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
show.
exactly.
So,
Mhm.
you know,
And that's to season. If it's the end of the season, things, staffing changes,
That's right.
availability changes,
Right.
frequency changes. So you just
Mhm.
got to be really cognizant of those things when you're booking. But once you book it, then you get to start what I consider the fun part is the researching of what's out there and what you can do.
Mhm.
And then
Where we're gonna eat.
where we're going to eat,
Yeah.
and let's do this tour and let's do this thing. And
Yeah.
so that's to me the really fun part, that big planning part. I find that to be super enjoyable. So
And I'm really glad you do, because I don't.
I really do
boy.
like that part. I really do. It's my fun part.
Yeah. But I really enjoy that you've done it, so that I'm not stuck there going, well, now what do I get to do?
Well, and then that works out too. If like you travel in a group or travel as a family, each person has strengths. So someone could be really good at finding the air travel. Somebody's really good at finding the hotels and doing that. Somebody's really good at booking the excursions. So you kind of have your spaces, and knowing that,
Yeah.
if you're willing to let go of the reins and let that
Right.
person take over,
Yeah.
and then for us, the budget works out in the wash. Somebody's going to book it for everybody, and then I might take care of a couple of excursions where you guys take care of
Like
the
hotels
room,
and
then the car.
and the car.
Then it works out in the wash where you're really spending equivalent amounts of money, so you don't have to Venmo somebody or change hands with dollars. It ends up being equivalent and fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
we do enough math to know that we're
Yeah.
more or less
in the ballpark.
in the ballpark.
The other thing too is when you're there and you're spending money on food, it's really good to kind of roulette who pays for what, because
Yeah.
then it becomes even as well.
Exactly. And again, you're not bugging the wait staff of, no, we need
Split
to
the
divide it
check.
4 ways. Yeah, no. Don't do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, give them everything, but I'm paying for the
The
salad.
salad and this water.
And I've been in parties like
yeah.
that. You
Me
know?
Well, and I've been in
too.
that budget, so I've been in that
Right.
that demographic of people who don't have that.
Right.
We're lucky I got there.
Or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're lucky we got there.
Yeah, or you're like, yeah, okay, we're all cool splitting it 4 ways, and then the other 3 like have 4 drinks each, and you're drinking iced tea, and you're like, I think we're no longer
Even. Yeah. So-
right? And you had the cheeseburger, and everybody else is eating steak.
Lobsters.
Yeah, and you're like, no, I think we'll all pay our own way, thank you.
Yeah. That's
But just kind of
Yeah.
plan that in advance.
Well,
Know what's going to happen.
I think your point too, Kris, is doing the math.
yeah,
And being diligent about the math and making sure that it does come out even. In our case, we're not so stuck on having it even Stevens and being exact to the penny
No,
even.
but if
we're
we're
not
close.
that way. But I know like some groups I have traveled with where that's an important piece, mainly because of, their own budgets. I totally respect that.
for sure.
So I will, you just be flexible with how the math goes, but do the math just so you can see where the dollars are going and where you can save and where you should splurge.
well, and I will also add the caveat because of who we are. Be kind to each other about the finances. Okay, money is a rough subject.
Yes,
It's a rough subject, especially when you're starting to get multiple groups of people involved.
that have
you know.
different budget restrictions
Oh, yeah,
or
constraints on them,
criteria.
yeah.
They just want to.
Yeah, and I am all for helping somebody else out with the check.
Oh,
because I mean, we're all at this nice restaurant. I won't say fancy. I'll just say nice.
Yeah.
3.5, 4 stars. And we're having a great time. And all of a sudden, the check comes in, and so starts sweating bullets because they can't pay. Help them out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
Or
help them out.
It just turned out it was more than we thought it was going to be, so it's over someone's budget. okay, well,
We'll fix it.
we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
But yeah, or just say, I want to splurge on one fancy meal and this excursion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I want to just do, burger joints and
Free stuff.
Right.
yeah,
And
and the bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
breakfast.
I'm always especially the one who turns around and then they're going to say, well, I'll try and get, it's like, you just told me that you couldn't afford to do this meal. You're not going to be able to afford to do much more. Just let me do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and be okay with that.
Yeah. And, later on in the trip, you're going to ask for help again. Okay.
Well, in the
We
next
got you.
trip, it's the other way around, right?
Yeah, we got
it's
you.
Like, oh,
Or
we
the
can
next-
only do this.
The
thing.
next trip.
That's what I said. The next
Oh, yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
sorry.
other person's like, yeah, well, I want to do these other things. I want you to come with me, so I'm paying, or I'll
Right.
pay the difference, or whatever. So
Right.
but that's us as a family. We've been traveling together for many, many years.
Well, even just not as a family. I mean, we've even with friends.
Well, sure,
you
but
know,
again,
we've
it's
done that
all
with friends.
it's all communication, right? So like, we're every like Dear Abby letter, right? It all really comes down to communication. So communicate ahead of time, have those hard conversations before you even get on the plane so that we all know what's going to happen at the destination. And
Exactly.
and so then no one's surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done our Los Angeles thing. We've gone down to San Diego. We've done our tide pool thing. We've done our beach thing. And now we come back up. Now we're going home. Now we're going to go on an international trip.
Okay.
Okay, where are we going for international? And I'm not picking this time. Okay, because this is not just my show.
Well, let's do Greece since you're going to Greece.
Okay, there we are.
So the first thing I would say is learn what you need paperwork wise and maybe immunization wise if you're like going on a safari or you're going to India or somewhere more exotic than Europe. What do you need to get in? And work on that. Is your passport current? Remember, your passport needs to not expire within 6 months of your trip. So if you think, oh, I'm good till the end of the year, my October trip will be fine. You're not okay.
No.
Yeah. So make sure that your passport is current and will be through the duration of your trip. What else you've talked about?
So, well, I guess we're jumping ahead a little bit on the outline, but I think we're okay with that since we chose my space. One of the things I did when I was trying to plan this trip myself, because it is my dream vacation, is do I book everything independently and try and figure out domestic travel that way, or do I look into packages? And do I look into going with a travel group? So that way, at the original time of thought, I was just going to travel by myself.
Right.
So getting in with a crew and a travel group would have given me travel companions, even though I didn't know anybody, but I wouldn't have been by myself necessarily in a space. So that was the thing I looked at. And then when I was really planning things, I found that it was pretty much the same price to book through a travel organization than it was on my own. Now, yeah, if I was on my own, I could have saved a lot on hotel on some things because where I'm staying is 5-star resort level hotels. So that's okay. I mean, so I'm splurging a little bit there, or letting the splurge happen there. But I personally am not comfortable driving in a foreign country. I personally am not comfortable trying to navigate myself around, especially in a space where the language isn't English.
Not only not English, but not a Latin alphabet.
Not a Latin alphabet. I know those as my work symbols, not my...
Have you traveled to Europe before?
I've never been to Europe.
Okay. So that's another consideration.
Yeah.
You want to take it easy for the first trip.
So that was a big caveat on how I decided to book what I was going to book. And so like when we're planning an international thing, it is wise to look into those packages with a travel group versus independent and going alone. And
So then there's different kinds of travel groups. Did you look into some different ones? I know like universities do stuff, so it would be more of a historical one or luxury one.
I honestly didn't, because I kind of had my heart set on this one that I booked because of reputation
Okay.
alone.
Well, that's a big consideration.
It was I knew that what I was going to get with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at the itinerary, it was what I wanted to do.
Okay. Well, that sounds ideal.
So
Yeah.
it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to go with it. And that's how I booked it. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's I like that.
and from a novice who's only been to Australia and Curacao, I've not traveled internationally a lot. So I really wanted to have a lot of things taken care of for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, yes, and particularly for a first destination where English isn't the primary language. I know Curacao is not, it's Dutch.
Dutch,
but,
Spanish, and English. I
Okay.
was completely fine
okay.
in Curacao.
Yeah. And Greece, like if you're in Athens and you're in the touristy areas, you will find most people speak enough English that you can get around. However, if you're wandering around on your own, as someone who's done this, or not in Athens, once you kind of get outside of a city, big city, English becomes less used, right? So you can't.
Which is what
No, you had useful correct there.
Okay.
It becomes less useful.
It's totally
Yeah.
less useful. Yeah. But even what I discovered too, and I keep talking to Alyce about this, is when I was wandering around on my own. So most of the street signs, since Athens had the Olympics there, are bilingual. So they have English as well as Greek. However, what the English transliteration is, like on your map or maybe Google Maps, I did this before Google Maps was a thing, or reliable thing, I should say. It existed, but it wasn't very good in Europe. Don't match. And so that's not helpful at all. So I just ended up, because I was on my own, just making up what the Greek would be, like making up the words, because I didn't have to communicate to anybody. And so it was like, okay, I need to go to Berry Street. It looks like Berry to me. That's what I'm going to call it. And then Greek always matched, right? So I was okay. But it took me a little bit and getting lost to figure out that the English on my map and the English on the street signs didn't match ever.
Well, and that's, again, was a big piece of why I picked the group I'm traveling with, is that I get a native speaker guide
That's
along with.
brilliant. Yes.
So,
and for a lot of my trip, I had that as well because I was there for work. And so my work companions who were Greek did a lot of, they didn't have to, but boy, they did. And I loved it. Was, we'd go to dinner or they
in order for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, or they would just explain the menu to me if we were going to places that weren't touristy. So the menus were all in Greek and not in English, and didn't have pictures, right?
So one of the ththings too, like kind of, I've asked a lot of questions of you of do I need to get currency?
Mm-hmm.
How do I do that? And making
Right.
like when I'm there. And one of the things too that's important is these are long flights,
Yes.
and long haul flying is a big thing that is something to take into consideration with international travel. Is like, can you do it? I can. I don't know. Like, Chuck, that's going to be a big consideration for you. Is how's that changing for you?
And see, that was something I was going to bring up later with the new travel issues.
Mm-hmm.
Swelling happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And swelling is something that I must be very, very cognizant of and aware of now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you a little bit of background, swelling can lead to further circulation issues and circulation problems, which can lead to future amputations. It means that I do need to get up. I do need to at least elevate my good leg, or at least try to elevate my good leg.
Yeah.
Compression socks can help.
I was gonna say that's the
They
big
can.
piece. I have some now. So
but they're not great right now. The reason I say that is because the issue that I have with the compression socks is walking around in Disneyland on a compression sock. I wore a blister on my right foot. That was pretty frightening.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's me. Okay. Don't take what I have as gospel.
Well, it's
You know.
I mean, yours is very specific situation. So somebody who had like myself who has the same genetics as you, however,
Well, okay. You haven't let diabetes get out
I
of
have
control.
all of my parts.
So
Yeah.
and your kidneys still love you, and your
Today.
pancreas still works.
Today.
So
I got the bad lungs.
You got
you got the
lungs.
bad lungs. Okay,
Yay.
but I'm sorry, but everything else, your endocrine system you're doing okay.
For now.
You're
But
doing
anyway,
okay.
it's one of those things of considering, and the research that's going into all of this that you've done that I haven't done before is just that pre-planning. I'm finding that international travel takes a lot more pre-planning than a domestic, because
Sure.
it's new to me. I don't
Right.
know it, and so I'm doing as much research
Well,
as I
and-
possibly can.
See, and all of that pre-planning that you're doing for international, I have to now do for domestic.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say, for
You know.
those who don't travel frequently, domestic is also a lot of research.
Mhm.
yeah.
So, it's it just depends on your experience. But yes, doing a lot of research is a good idea. As someone who didn't do that early. I mean, I did it when we were traveling for pleasure. We definitely did our research when we were.
Because we were excited about it.
I know.
You
And we
know,
wanted
it was
see everything.
Yeah, we were going to go to international. We're going to go to London. And,
Yeah. And England and Ireland
Yeah.
and all the places
And my
all at once.
and my favorite city in the UK, Canterbury.
Yeah.
And-
I know
Anyway,
that.
sorry.
Well, and that
Yeah.
brings up another issue or another thing of plan but be flexible, because we
Yeah.
fell in love with Canterbury and decided to stay an extra day
yes, we did.
because we wanted to spend more time there. We hadn't done everything we wanted to do, and it was amazing.
Chris and I are amateur medievalists.
Right.
Okay, that's our hobby. Is we do medieval recreation
Right.
and reenactment. And when we walked into Canterbury, it is still very much a medieval city
Mm-hmm.
or a medieval town. It was like, no, we got to stay here because there's architecture here. I mean, there's cobblestone streets here that have been here since the 1300s. Okay.
Yeah. And then the choir starts practicing in Canterbury Cathedral, and we were all like, "Oh, we have to.
we got to go.
Stay a little longer.
We got to go.
Yeah.
So
Plan but be flexible, and so we were able to do that.
because you'll end up falling in love with the medieval cathedral. So I don't know.
Or want to do a ghost tour that's the next night. And
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so the advantage of doing it the way you're doing it with a group is that all of that's kind of planned out.
Yeah.
But it's also, it sounds like they're giving you some free time as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of afternoons that are free, or the excursions in the morning, and then the afternoon you get to go back to the spa or the private beach. Yes, please. I mean, like I have plenty of time where I've already told Tom, who's going with me, that you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna be in the water, and I mean the Mediterranean, Aegean Sea is my bucket list. Like I want to, and that's awesome. So again, the itinerary fit with what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that right about here, I'm probably going to throw in some sort of commercial plug for MVP.
Cool.
For Tom and Lonette through
Yeah.
Magical Vacation Planner. Right about here. Hi, everybody. It's Future Chuck here, Future Editor Chuck here. And I wanted to talk to you folks real quick about Magical Vacation Planner by Lonette and Tom Pfeiffer. They are a travel concierge couple that can help you with everything that you could possibly need when you're planning your travel or when you're looking for those deals or packages. They primarily do focus on Disney and cruises, but they can help you with pretty much anything, anywhere on the planet. So check them out. I will provide a link here in the description of this video. Look them up, ask them what's going on, and start a conversation. You'll find out that they can help you with everything. So yes, please go check out Magical Vacation Planner by Lonette and Tom Pfeiffer. Thanks a lot, and back to the video.
That was a breeze. And I can talk about it in a little bit, but I just all of that fit in, but the questions I have are, I keep asking now it's the details and it's the little minutia things.
So you asked about local currency and then I got distracted.
That's
so
okay.
Local currency, yes. I used to get local currency ahead of time. I've stopped doing that because ATMs just make it so easy that I just use the ATM at the airport at my destination and get my local currency Now, the disadvantage of that, but you're going to have the same thing if you get it at a bank here, is if you need cash for like the taxi from the airport to your hotel, and you only have these big notes, the 20s or whatever that come out, that can be a pain. I just need a bottle of water, please, and
you
so
pay with 100.
Yeah, exactly. In the airport, they can handle it.
Yeah.
But a street vendor is going to look at you like,
come on,
what now?
Yeah. I remember when we were in London.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what I was buying, and all I had was like a 50-pound note.
Right. And you're like, I'm really sorry.
And he's looking at me and it's like, it's all I've got, man.
Yeah.
It's all I've got. He goes, okay.
Yeah. So if they've got the change, great. But the nice thing about Greece is it's euros.
Mm-hmm.
So they're fairly easy to get here before you go. Also because we live in a major city. So so the downtown banks will carry that usually. Yeah. So I would say yes. If you don't want to just pop your card into the ATM there, then plan ahead and have a few euro to take with you. Mm-hmm. The other thing too is also understand that the smallest note of a euro is a €5 note. And so like we're used to having singles. Those are coins.
But I was going to say you get coins for $1,
you get coins,
$2.
But man, does that get heavy.
It weighs down, yeah. I remember that in Australia.
Oh, same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the $5 bills or the pounds, but everything below that was a coin, and those they were
it adds up. They're hefty.
I remember walking around with 50 pounds of coin in my
was
pockets.
Significant.
Yeah. So consider that. Make sure you have an adequate change purse for that. Or for men, an adequate space to store these coins, because it's probably not going to be your front pocket or your pants will fall off.
Speaking of medieval reenactment.
Exactly, right? Have a little bag that contains all of your coins. So some other things to consider. Most places take credit cards now, but again, you get away from the touristy areas, the big cities, or you want to do street vendor food, which let me say is pretty amazing. Then you need cash. So have some cash. You don't need a ton, because you can always get more once you're there.
It's always wise to have actual currency on you.
Yeah. Right. And so I would say yes.
I think a cool thing too about the day and age we live in is that Google Translate has now this app, the portion of the app where you can turn your camera on and show it to a sign and it automatically translates it.
Relatively.
So it's like, you can get at least the gist of what it is instead of being blind now. So that's kind of helpful. And
So another, while we're talking currency, to consider is if you're going to China, they only do everything on a phone. And so you need, and it has to be a Chinese account. So you need to open a Chinese account with your current, and I don't know how it works. There's a specific app that you have. There's a specific app. But I know we had one of my colleagues from China was here, and she was like, it's so weird that I need to carry like a credit card and my ID with me, because like in China everything is on this app.
It's all electronic. And so the fact that I've got to deal with something other than my phone, like I'll walk out of my hotel room and go, oh, I need my hotel key, I need my credit card, I need my ID. They just don't. And so doing your research and knowing that ahead of time. So of course your destination isn't that, but if you are going to another destination, make sure that you understand what their
currency is, if credit cards are a thing.
One of the
Yeah.
advantages, though, with what I'm doing is I don't have to take care of a travel visa on my own. The group has taken care of that, so I didn't have to worry about getting a travel visa. I don't have to worry about, I don't have to worry about shots or any of that. I'm not doing the
Right.
safari this time. Hang tight, everyone. Just yet.
Right.
So there's some, it's pretty easy that way, but all of the paperwork is being taken care of with them. So,
And I don't remember Greece being that difficult for paperwork. Now, when I went to Israel, it was, did I put that on my list? Anyway, I've been to Israel too for work. Again, it wasn't difficult, but I needed a letter from the Israeli office of my company saying when I was going to be there and whose my contacts were and
who
all
you
that
were,
stuff.
why you're here,
Yeah.
what you're doing.
And what's
Yeah.
funny is, like, I never had to produce that, but they said, you never
Have
know,
it.
so have it. And so I had it. I also sent my contacts in Israel a copy of my passport and, my travel information, my itinerary, my flight numbers, all of that kind of stuff, just to be double safe, right? So
I think one of the takeaways with this part of the conversation is that with international, especially with somebody who doesn't travel international, the planning of it and the pre-planning of it takes a lot more. I've been doing this for a year.
yeah,
I started a year ago now.
it's true.
Actually, I put my down payment a year ago.
Wow. Time
So
flies.
that's something that's important to know, is that if I'm going to talk about a difference between traveling domestic and traveling international, the planning of it takes me a whole lot longer with that. So that's a new issue for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
A new travel issue for me is just the amount of planning and international travel.
Well, and also for you choosing this package, the earlier you booked, one, you guaranteed yourself a seat when you wanted to travel, but two, did they offer incentives
Yes.
to pay sooner?
Yes, and the type of credit card I used, I got a discount on it. But
I guess the other thing too for international, depending where you're going, is tap water okay? What are the things that you should avoid versus not avoid? It's funny, Europe, they all avoid tap water, but it's perfectly fine. It's probably cleaner than a lot of our city water is. And so it's perfectly safe to drink, even though the Europeans themselves don't do that very often. And if you ask for tap water at a restaurant, they will look at you like they'll give it to you, but it's not normal. When you ask for water, they'll ask you if you want still or bubbly or whatever, however they say it, sparkling. And it comes in a bottle. So it's always bottled water.
there you go.
Okay. So, that's international travel and a lot of what Alice's trip is.
Well, I still have more to share about that. So
Cool.
Okay.
your new issues, though, as we've been talking, things have been popping up. So
New issues.
mine, well, I think traveling as a family always felt easy, and we could get around quickly, and we could bebop and weave around crowds pretty easily. And now, as a companion, I guess helper, I don't know, I do a lot of going ahead and clearing a path. I feel like that's my role, which is a little different. I think slowing down is another one that's different. And that's a new issue, because slowing down means we have to give more time. We've always been a traveling family that gave plenty of time, but now it's filled. So that's a different perspective. And just being very aware of surroundings too. I think that's one of the big changes is what's accessible, what's not accessible. If we have, if Chuck has a scooter, what path do we take for the scooter versus if we're on foot? Like some of those, that pre-plotting and pre-planning is a lot more forefront than it has been for me, just being around and trying to help out. So,
Mm-hmm. I would say it's the same for me. I'm thinking of our most recent trip and just making sure, well, because it was just the two of us, we just planned a trip that was relaxing and could accommodate the extra time needed, the rest time we wanted, all of the things, and not, hitting something every 2 hours. We have a new destination to get to and keeping on a schedule, hitting every ride. So, yeah. And enjoying things differently, trying new things that we haven't done before because we're slowing it down a little bit. What about for you?
Well, for me, everything has to be pre-planned now. Everything.
Okay.
Right down to what I'm going to wear
Mm-hmm.
versus, just putting something on and getting ready to roll out. I have to make sure that I might have the extra pin sock with me just in case. I have to make sure that I have extra liner socks with me. I have to make sure that I have extra prosthetic socks that are the cushiony socks.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to make sure that I have those with me. Because during the day, my stump is going to change size.
Mm-hmm.
And when it starts to get smaller is when injury starts to become more prominent and it starts to hurt inside the prosthesis. Every step I actually have to plan. I have to plan whether or not I'm going to make it up the hill or not, or if I'm going to get back down.
Mm-hmm.
Stairs are now a bit of a navigational hazard.
Mm-hmm.
Ramps are a navigational hazard. Uneven ground is a problem, and gravel is a problem. I discovered that when we went to the beach, that was terrifying. I didn't know if I was going to be able, if I got out there, was I going to be able to get back? That was the other issue. Yes, we did make the joke of, well, just take off your prosthesis and flop around like a seal. That ain't going to work.
no, I know, but
That ain't going to work. I mean, as
Trying to
funny
be
as it is,
levity.
yeah,
you know.
as funny as it might be, that is not going to work. The other issue is falling.
Yeah.
Falling is a big worry now.
Yeah.
Because if I land on that stump,
Well, and
that's revision city. That's
and-
more cutting.
and your prosthesis doesn't bend.
No.
Like, it's metal. It's
Yeah.
solid metal, so there's no give and give with that either. So
Yeah, and luckily it's a portion of the body that's not supposed to bend all that much.
No, but
so
like the legs have some little like that mobility and
Well,
yeah,
your
there's a
ankle-
twist and some
there's
give.
some
Yeah,
twist and give, but so that's it. Yeah, that's
Your
a good
ankle
point.
goes this way, but it doesn't go this way, does it?
your ankle goes this way,
But
No, I know, but yours
your
just goes.
Oh, my ankle doesn't move at all.
I would say your leg
Okay.
doesn't.
I thought
It doesn't
had a-
move at all. There's no hinge point there.
Okay.
No, what's there is the spring.
Oh, it's a spring. Okay.
Okay. There's a spring on the inside of that fake foot. That's what gives the illusion,
of the
Of a
of an articulation.
Gotcha.
Okay. But there's no articulation in that prosthesis.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
And-
So
and
tight
also
spots. No.
and also the prosthesis is heavier than the original
Mhm.
leg.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's speaking of trying to get in the water.
Mm.
It's an anchor. Okay. It's an anchor. It's going to drag you down. And not only that will it drag you down, but if you're just standing there, you can get the water up to the cup of the socket. If you get water in the cup of the socket, you're doomed. You're doomed. Okay.
Mhm.
I've also noticed that my endurance is not there anymore.
Mhm.
My muscle fatigue happens much more readily and much more quickly with me. Yes, I don't move as fast anymore because I move different now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I move much different now. As far as with the scooter, I've got to plan my route.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Since I'm the one driving, I've got to plan my route, and I've got to watch out for everybody else who's not watching
Mhm.
because, well, it doesn't stop on a dime. It goes a little bit faster than you'd expect in certain times, and it goes a lot slower than you really want in certain times. I am very reticent to be laying on that little beepy horn, even though there are times I wanted to be that little old lady cruising down Main Street,
Meep, meep.
just laying on that horn.
Uh,
Oh, jeez.
but you
And
get it. You understand.
Oh, I do understand, because she's frustrated and she's done.
Yeah, you get
She's
it though.
done with your noise. Okay. She's just done. But I think that's what changed with me, is the discovering that our society is not necessarily built with those who actually need assistance.
Mm.
I think that's what's changed for me.
And how to find it, and like how to make it work for you is up to you.
Yeah. And it's all on you.
It's on you. Yeah.
So anyway, that's what's changed with me.
So.
That's my issues.
Yeah.
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 I was going to mention, when you said about endurance, I was like, we don't go as long as we used to.
No.
You know,
No.
it's not
This-
an all day marathon. It's like, okay, there
Yeah.
has to be stop points. There has to be forced rest. There's making sure we're down.
Right.
And stopped.
The doing the first day at Disney, and it's like Disneyland. It's like, oh, we can go back to the hotel. No, we can't.
Right.
Okay. That's not an option, really.
Right.
Because if I go back to the hotel,
You're
I'm not
leaving.
coming back.
You're not leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But finding those places where you can rest and get that forced rest to happen,
Right.
and making that a part of the day instead of an option of the day.
Right.
So,
Yep. And domestic or international, same thing of pick what you want to do and then maybe cut it in half, because everything takes longer than you think. I mean, for us, we've got new issues that make things take longer, but even before that, right? So some of the stuff we did in North Carolina, it wasn't that we were slowing down because of prosthetic. It was just so much. We bit off more than we should have, I think. We wanted to see all of the Outer Banks, and there was a lot more to it. Like, we stopped at some places like, I wish we could have stayed here longer. But
Yeah.
here we are. Yeah, and ended up spending a lot more time in the car than we thought we would. And it's also a common mistake for the Europeans that come here. They just don't comprehend
how,
that our state is as big as several countries.
yeah.
Or my Greek friend actually, she asked me, so if I come and visit you in Colorado, I really want to go see the house of my favorite author that's in Kansas City. Is that doable? And
No.
I said, oh
No.
yeah, it's an 8-hour drive. It's fine. And she's like, an 8-hour drive? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean,
So the answer is no.
it's doable. It's just, it's a
not
long ways
yeah,
away.
It's not a day
And
trip.
and the other person at dinner with us was like, if we drove for 8 hours, we'd be 2 countries away.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, okay. Yeah. So for those coming to visit the Western United States, probably all of the United States, but particularly in the West, there's a lot of space between destinations.
Okay. So Alyce.
What am I learning? I'm learning that planning is important and doing as much as you can. If you can have somebody else plan it for you, do it. That's why I chose the package that I did, is because it was all planned. All I had to do was sign up and go. They even took care of my airfare. They took care of all of the paperwork necessary to go to Europe. So that was really important. The other thing too is that, all of the planning that I've been doing for the past year has been important, of making sure I have the right travel items that TSA now approves. TSA things have changed. So I need to make sure that I'm okay with that. Little tips and tricks for a 14-hour, 15-hour flight. That's something to think about too, and things to accommodate with being in a tiny little space, and making sure circulation happens. You have enough water, very dry plane. How do you handle that? Yeah, I'm from Colorado, so I don't have to worry about it. So anyway, that's what I've been planning with. With Greece, I'm going to Athens, Santorini, and Crete on this trip, and I'll be hitting a lot of the things that you should hit when you go to those places. And then the cool thing about the group that I'm going with is that they always have these extras that you don't know about. So I have some surprises coming my way, and I'm happy to share with them when I come back. But I'm 4 months out and I'm really excited and I can't wait. And the next 4 months in my job are going to be very full. And the next thing you know what, I'm going to be on a plane to Greece in August. So that's the big thing that I'm looking forward to. I've learned a lot. I think that planning is the big takeaway is just read up, plan,
Mm-hmm.
change your plan.
Learn about your destiny, like the big places you're going to visit.
Yeah.
Learn about them ahead of time. You'll enjoy them even more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's where I'm going. Yay.
Okay. So that's all. That's the rest of what you wanted to share?
Yeah.
All right, on. Okay, so that's it for tonight for this stint. In 2 weeks, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do in 2 weeks.
We always come up with something. So
I was going to say the other half of this because this one took so long.
It could take, it could be part 2. It could be part 2. I mean, there's still so much more that we can
I know.
impart to people. Other than that, that's it for us. So thank you very much for joining us. And we will see you in 2 weeks with something else. We could talk more about Colorado, but I think we're done with Colorado because we've done a lot about Colorado. We've done a lot.
yeah.
So, there's that. So, anyway, thanks again. Thank you all. Remember, we're on Spotify as well as on YouTube. Find us on Spotify, the Todd-Cast on Spotify. So thanks much, folks, and we will see you soon.